Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to our first episode here on the Sideboard Podcast. So as you all know, a lot's been going on in the world the past few months, coming up on like 9 months here, I think. And with some extra free time that me and my friend had, we catalyzed this podcast into existence. So we just wanted to introduce ourselves and then go over some stuff about the Dragon Ball Super card game. And here's my friend Tim.
What's up, guys? So my name's Tim. Just turned 28 just over a month ago now. Born and raised in Fresno, California. So Central Valley, just stick your finger in the middle of California and you have destroyed Fresno. So just a little bit of background on me before we start getting into other topics. I grew up probably like most kids, played sports, didn't really like school. And then all of a sudden I was an adult. Kind of had a rough time growing up, not necessarily like due to living circumstances or anything like that. I was pretty fortunate, but I struggled a lot like mentally and emotionally, mostly through like junior high, high school, and even into adulthood. And I feel like it's kind of important to at least bring up, because I know in the general gaming and even card gaming community, that's actually pretty prominent. So for anyone who is dealing with any of that stuff, you're definitely not alone. And if anyone does want to, have us discuss more about that stuff, please let us know in any comments, forums, anything like that, and we will be more than happy to bring some more light to that and talk a little bit more. But more about me a little bit before we move over to Caleb. So with that stuff, obviously I got bullied a lot. Mental health, confidence issues, all that stuff. I was really fortunate though. I had some really great friends and a small support system. That's definitely gotten smaller as an adult, but has gotten stronger, which I'm definitely lucky to have. And funny enough, during a really hard time was actually when I got introduced into card games. My best friend introduced me to Magic probably like a week or two before my aunt passed away. It was back in like 2012, 2013. And learning that game, it's like lit something in me that I had never really felt before. It's like I absolutely hated school, hated math, English, all of that. And Magic the Gathering just like encapsulated all of that in a way that was not super boring, and I was like actually excited to play and stuff. And it just like sparked something that I don't play Magic as much now, but I mean, as you know, Caleb, I play Dragon Ball quite a bit.
Absolutely.
And we'll get more into TCG stuff in a little bit, but let's move it on over to you, Caleb. Let's learn a little bit about you.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch real quick on the like bullying topic and all that. If, like Tim said, if any of you guys want us to elaborate on anything like that, we are here for the community, and we know that everyone struggles with that kind of stuff. So we're not just here to talk about the meta and all that. We want to, just be a community-driven podcast. So
Definitely.
All right, so a little bit about me. My name's Caleb Williamson. Many of you guys know me already from the Dragon Ball Super scene. I grew up in Clovis, which, if you don't know, is a small town within Fresno County. So it's basically Fresno. If you say Fresno, Clovis, we basically say it's the same town. So I grew up in Clovis. I had a pretty straightforward childhood. Went to public school growing up, played sports, always kept up on my studies. But throughout my years in high school, I didn't really click with any of the social groups, like the sport players or like the actors or, singers or anything like that. So for the most part, I just kind of hung out with myself. And I had like a couple of friends, but like during school specifically, we didn't hang out because they went to a different school or something like that. I don't really remember when I started playing card games. It was sometime in high school. I was part of that group that played at the cafeteria table. In high school, there was always one of those groups. But what I do remember is that it really helped me to connect socially with a lot of longtime friends, one of which my co-host Tim here. And so that's just a little bit about me. Now for the rest of our podcast here, we want to go over just a couple of questions. Take it from there, Tim.
All right, so first thing we're going to talk a little bit about is how card games have impacted your life.
Yeah, so I mean, like I was saying, it helped me connect socially. So what exactly does that mean? Well, currently in my life, I'm 23 years old, and I would say I have a solid like 5 to 10 very close friends that I've built through card games. And I think we hang out at least on a weekly basis. Excuse me. So I would say that's one aspect of how it impacted my life. Another aspect is obviously financially. It's expensive. It's not necessarily a good impact, but that is an impact that maybe we'll talk about later. But yeah, I would say the biggest for me is socially, and then the second biggest, which is actually really important, is it helped me a lot with math because I wasn't a big math guy. I was good at it, but I didn't really like it. But then once I got into card games, statistics just started to really interest me because it made me a better card game player.
Definitely.
What about you, Tim? How do you think card games have impacted your life?
So kind of the same couple of things. So oddly enough, with like me having, gone through bullying and all that stuff in high school, I was actually, like a fairly liked and popular guy at school. It's kind of weird. I was social, but like socially disconnected, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I knew a lot of people knew me, but I wasn't really close with very many people. And playing card games, oddly enough, it kind of helped me get better at that. It helped me get better at, like small talk, hot minute conversation type of things, and just being more friendly, I guess. And also, like you said, it helped me a lot, especially as an adult with like reading and math, especially not being in school.
By
The
school,
math
you mean
part,
college?
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
The math part, I was one of those kids that like everyone hates the fact that you don't have to work hard at school and it just kind of like comes naturally. So I was the guy in math classes where I like didn't do any of my homework and would just take the test and ace it.
Same.
But the downside of that was like I didn't really retain the information. It was like I would learn it really quickly, remember it long enough to take a test, and then it'd be gone.
Yeah, like the next year you're that kid that raises their hands like, can we have a refresher session real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, same over here.
And then with like English and reading and stuff, really great at writing papers, but super slow reader. For some reason, like when I'm reading stuff, my brain has to process every word and make sense of it all together. So I just naturally read slower, not because I was like unintelligent, but I just like overanalyzed everything. And card games kind of helped me to kind of analyze less, but also analyze things in a different way. I don't know. It's kind of hard and weird to explain it, but I got really good at learning how to analyze like a game state or something like that and understand that I need to make a specific play at a specific time, and kind of judge how that would affect whether I was going to be in a better position than my opponent going into the next, couple turns or not.
So applying that to like real life, reading a book or something, it might mean that you were given an assignment to say like summarize the book, and you find that your objective is just to summarize but not go in depth about every character. So you skim what you need and find the general gist of the book, write the paper, and you'll get an A, but you didn't have to find the backstory of every single character.
Yeah, I didn't have to go as in depth, spend as much time. Kind of learned how to infer things better.
Read a situation.
Yeah, reading situations definitely is a skill that you will learn in card games for sure.
I mean, and that applies to real life too, because like all these things we've talked about are good for, say, like job interviews.
Yeah, definitely.
Managing people, all that kind of stuff. So continue.
No, that was kind of it. You know, I just kind of learned more about me.
Yeah.
Playing card games, kind of like different attitudes or facets of me, like, you know, passive parts of me, more, you know, aggressive or upfront parts of me, and learning like the situations where one is more appropriate than the other and stuff like that.
Right, I see. All right, well, let's move on to our second question or topic. What is your favorite mechanic in card games and why? Tell us like a story about it.
Ooh.
I'm not excited for Tim's story.
I don't know, honestly. This is tough. Are we doing card games as a whole or...
Yeah, card games as a whole.
Oh, man.
So Magic or Pokemon or
all right.
Dragon Ball or all those
Any
other
of you
card games
that have played Magic are either going to love or hate me for this, because
Here we go.
I started Magic as like a super casual, like, I just want to play fun creatures and monsters kind of guy, and then very, very quickly was forced into degeneracy playing combo decks and like hard control where the only word in my vocabulary is no. But probably my favorite thing in Magic was Planeswalkers. And I don't know why. They were just like, they weren't exactly creatures. They were this like special type of card you could summon, and they have special abilities that like either add or subtract loyalty to them and do arguably broken, busted effects. And the most fun ones have ultimates where you remove a whole bunch of counters and do something that's just like game winning on the spot. And I think the first Planeswalker I ever opened was a Narset from Dragons of Tarkir. It was like one of the coolest control Planeswalkers ever, but it was not good at the time that set came out. It actually wasn't good until like 5 or 6 sets later, right before it rotated out of standard. There was a Esper control deck that was just... It was so much fun and so degenerately just no. It was a good time for me.
Well then, saw that coming.
Yep. Dragon Ball though, I don't know. There's a lot of really fun mechanics in Dragon Ball, honestly. A lot of really unique
I
stuff.
feel like a lot of your favorites have been banned.
That's true. I guess towards the end of when I was playing Magic a lot and transitioning towards Dragon Ball, one of my favorite decks to play was Legacy Reanimator. And not long after, coming into Dragon Ball Super, it was right before Set 6, I believe. Yeah, because Set 6 came out like a couple weeks after I came to the game, and then we went to San Diego for celebrations. And like my first actual deck was Dende Agents of Destruction, and that was just like Dragon Ball Super Reanimator, but like on steroids. And like still to this day, that's my favorite deck this game has produced. Unfortunately, the engine, and by engine I mean one single card that made the whole deck work, got the banhammer for someone else's sins.
For those of you that don't know, AOD Dende would essentially on turn 2 or turn 3 have cycled through its deck and put all of its boss monsters in the discard pile, and then on turn 2 or 3 reanimate a card that said bring all of your boss monsters from the discard back to the board. So it would in one turn make a giant board of all these boss monsters that all had different effects, and then it would probably kill you. that turn or maybe the
we
turn
had
after.
a 40k triple strike with barrier because you always put barrier on it, and then that summoned like it was usually like 3 Janembas and an Android 13. So we had 4 20k critical attackers, 3 of which would make your opponent mill the top 3 cards of their deck and untap energy at the end of turn. And then the Android 13 just said pay 2 energy, blow up a creature on your opponent's board, and they discard a card.
Broken.
Not once per turn.
Broken.
The deck was really fun.
Super broken.
But yeah, what about you, Caleb? What's on the top of your list?
I would have to say that I got to start from the kind of beginning of where I went into competitive card games, and that's with the Panini card game. It was so Panini's a baseball card company that got the rights to Dragon Ball Z, and they made a card game out of it. And I played that game. I want to say it was like 8 years ago or something like that. It was a while ago. Anyways, that game was heavily controlled by like tempo and control decks, and so I always wanted to play to beat the meta, so I played aggro decks, and that's kind of where I fell in love with the color red. And oddly enough, red in most games has a lot of similarities.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like red in that game was just straight aggro, and then you go to Magic where it's also aggro, and then you go to Dragon Ball where it's also aggro.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I would say my favorite mechanic is like when you can swarm the board with small creatures and then make a force multiplier or like a card that buffs them all, and then basically go for game there. I really like that strategy because if you have if they kill your little guys, you generally still have enough resources for like some boss monsters to try and win the game. But if they don't, you'll probably end up winning with those little guys. And so I would say that my favorite mechanic in card games is like aggro in a way, I guess. But it's more like the fair version of aggro, not the degenerate version. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because like the last, I don't know, maybe 8 months or so, I've personally been playing a lot of like broken, busted like turn 1-2 aggro decks, which is like not normal for me, but oddly enough it's just kind of fit. Like I found specific decks in this game that aggro just fit for me.
Yeah, I kind of feel like with all card games, the player who wins is the one who uses the most time doing actions in the 60 minutes. Not necessarily slow playing, but like they just have more stuff to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Generically. Because that means they're doing more things with their energy and you're not doing as many things. And that's what the decks Tim is referring to do. They just get to do tons of things.
There obviously are, corner case exceptions to that. In Magic, there's your traditional like blue-white control where it's just, draw, play a land, pass. Counter. In this game, yeah, and then counter whatever your opponent does. In this game, we have, to an extent, the new yellow topo. There's Hatchiyak, which is probably the most pure, control.
Definitely.
And then there's Invoker, which is more of your like draw go control.
Yeah, it's draw go, and then it's also like combo control.
Yeah,
because it got some new stuff that combos that we'll maybe go into in a future episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Alrighty, well, anything else you want to cover for favorite mechanic, Tim? What about like sleeper mechanic that's not actually good, but you enjoy playing it at locals?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think for like locals, I'm probably gonna be more on the like mono blue train. Not that mono blue is not like competitively good and stuff like that, but I think it's just too fair to win a big event.
Yeah, they definitely seem that way in Dragon Ball right now.
So, as you know, I've had my Mono Blue Super Saiyan 3 deck built for a little while, and while it is just a fair deck, it can have some pretty busted opening starts to it.
Obuni turn 2 seems good.
Yeah, and then turn 3 slamming a big old Kefla, and then basically, everything I play is quote unquote free for the rest of the game, and I just have, this big card draw engine that's kind of hard to deal with.
Right.
But as far as like in general, I think on a locals level, I think, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think Pilaf might be a really solid locals pick. And it kind of fits into the whole like fast-paced aggro kind of deck, especially with that new Black Bardock out of the set.
Yeah, Bardock the Resolute.
Mm-hmm.
That card's pretty good.
You can have some pretty nutty opens. Turn 1 Awaken at 7 life or even 8.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just need a free Overrealm.
Who needs a plan B when they're dead after plan A?
Yeah.
Yep. And then you go
7
you get
life.
To go have food.
You open a Kaba, a free Overrealm, and a Bardock. You've got 2 double strikers, your free Overrealm, and then your leader. Your leader is now a 15k that draws on attack.
Seems pretty good. At least for
Pretty
locals.
nuts.
I mean,
yeah.
Who knows about
maybe
high level events?
Yeah, maybe that makes its way into higher events. Maybe that gets.
People have been sleeping on red.
That's true.
All right.
I don't know. What about you? Before we close out.
Even though I'm an aggro player, for some reason I've been leaning towards hand control in this set, but I want to do a sort of unconventional way because, one, like I mentioned before, cards are expensive, yes. And there are a lot of promos required to play the number 1 hand control deck, which I think is like the Frieza deck, the new Frieza that came out.
Definitely.
So I'll probably look into something different that's sort of like a tempo hand control sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as right now, it's probably just something budget because cards are expensive.
Cool.
Yeah, so that is all of our topics for today. We just wanted to get this going for you guys. We're going to be following up with some episodes shortly after. Hopefully we can keep it up going for like weekly or something like that. And then if you guys have any topics you want us to cover, just let us know. And this is the Sideboard Podcast. Any final thoughts, Tim?
Another quick little thing right before we sign out. We are going to be working on getting video as well. Got some moving going on, so we're going to try and figure out, a space to do video podcasts also, but at least for the beginning, it's probably going to be just audio.
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to improve as we go, and that's just kind of how things work these days. So it's no big deal.
Yeah, guys. We will, I guess, see you guys in the next episode.
Alrighty, this is the Sideboard Podcast checking out. Thanks again.
See ya.